Thank you, Mr. Shufro. Our final panelist is Sean Brennan. We're very lucky to have him here. He's an expert on the precautions that hazardous waste workers have to use when removing substances like PCBs, hazardous substances, in his capacity as director of the Mason Tenders Training Fund. And I think, as I've learned a little bit about the nature of those precautions, it's alarming to think about school employees and teachers and kids being in that same environment day after day without having access to the protective gear and to the kind of training that Sean and his colleagues provide. Please welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. Good evening. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Mason Tenders District Council Training Fund, it's a long name. We are the training provider for 3 union locals affiliated with the Laborers International Union of North America. One of those laborers local is Laborers Local 78. They are the hazard material, asbestos and lead abatement workers. They deal with dangerous stuff every single day. It's my job to make sure that when they go to work, they understand how to protect themselves so that they not only keep themselves safe, but understand that sometimes it's possible to bring these materials home to your family inadvertently if you don't follow certain procedures. Now, what I'd like to do is talk to you all not as simply an audience. I want you to think of your families. I want to speak to you as individual family members. Some of you may have children, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins that go to school. When we send our workers to work, we make certain that they have proper personal protective equipment to wear to remove these materials, including protective clothing, a respirator, sometimes with more than one filter on them, protection for their hands, because when they're dealing with these materials, and certainly with PCBs, you can contaminate yourself through absorption, through the skin. Have you ever seen a child go to school with a respirator on his face?
No.
Have you ever seen a child go to school with protective clothing on?
No.
Have you ever seen a child go to school with protective gloves? No. These kids are not protected from this stuff. If we think back 25 years, asbestos was a relatively new term. Over the past 25 years, we've learned a lot about asbestos. We've learned that just because you breathe it in today, it's not going to kill you tomorrow, but 40 years from tomorrow, 30 years from tomorrow, you may end up with mesothelioma. You may end up with lung cancer, gastrointestinal cancers. And if I had my druthers, if I'm to be exposed to something, I'll take asbestos over PCBs. There are so many things. There's so many things that these compounds can do to a human body. It's frightening. I invite anybody in this room to go on the internet when you get home. Go to Wikipedia and see what it has to say about PCBs. You'll be alarmed, and you should be. The problem is the alarm hasn't been sounded in the ears of the people that need to hear it. I sat on a school board in my school district out on Long Island. In my capacity as a school board member, my first and foremost priority was supposed to be the safety and health of the children in the school. Does that change in New York City? It's the same. Their first priority is the safety and health of the children in the schools. This is an issue that has to be taken seriously. The doctor did a study years ago, and still they're talking about it in closed circles. Folks, I can tell you one thing. As a member of a school board, we react to community members making noise. We don't want to hear it. We want it to go away. And the best way to make it go away is to deal with the issue. Folks make noise. Make them deal with the issue. Understand, we talked about PCBs in caulk. It is in caulk. Caulk inside a building is one thing. You've all had caulk in your bathrooms or around windows in your home, and if you go up to the caulk, it feels kind of rubbery, right? When a caulk is exposed to sunlight over an extended period of time, especially years and years and years, it becomes dry. It becomes brittle. It decomposes. It can turn to dust. That dust is very dangerous. We need to wake up those people with that alarm. We need to let them know that we don't want to be sending our kids to school in protective clothing and respirators and protective gloves. We need to let them know that it's important that they do something about this. And they do it now.
Right.
Because years from now is too late.
Right.
They said that there wasn't that big a problem. Does anybody remember what happened a few days after 9/11? When they asked what the air was like in the area? Right. Did we find out differently?
Yes.
And people are dying
Right.
in droves today. This shouldn't happen. This simply shouldn't happen. If you know something is dangerous, do something about it. We need to do something about it. Thank you.